Today, we will explore a principle of Buddhism and Zen that is both simple and transformative, the power of not reacting. We will examine how learning to control your emotions can lead to greater clarity, peace, and freedom in your life. By the end of this talk, you will understand how to respond wisely rather than react impulsively, and how this skill can profoundly improve your relationships, work, and overall well-being. Emotions are an essential part of being human. They guide our decisions, influence our relationships, and shape our experience of the world. Yet, unchecked or uncontrolled emotions can lead to suffering, conflict, and unnecessary stress. Anger, fear, jealousy, and impatience can cloud judgment and cause actions that we later regret. The Buddha observed that suffering often arises not from the events themselves, but from our reactions to those events. When we react impulsively, we give our power to circumstances, allowing external situations to dictate our inner state. Buddhism teaches that mastering our responses, rather than attempting to control every situation, is key to emotional freedom. Reaction is immediate and often unconscious. It is the mind's way of responding to stimuli based on habit, past conditioning, and attachment. Many of us have patterns of reacting without thinking, snapping in anger, withdrawing in fear, or obsessing over situations beyond our control. These reactions are automatic, and they often escalate problems instead of resolving them. The first step in mastering your emotions is awareness. Awareness allows you to observe your thoughts and feelings without being swept away by them. It creates a space between stimulus and response, a space where conscious choice becomes possible. Buddhism calls this mindfulness, the practice of being fully present and aware in each moment. Mindfulness does not suppress emotions, nor does it eliminate them. Rather, it allows you to recognize emotions as they arise, understand their causes, and choose how to respond. This recognition is the foundation of not reacting. By observing an emotion rather than immediately acting on it, you prevent unnecessary suffering and maintain clarity of mind. Another key principle is non-attachment to outcomes. Emotions often arise from our expectations of how people or situations should behave. When reality fails to match our expectations, we experience frustration, anger, or disappointment. By practicing non-attachment, we reduce the grip of these emotions. We accept life as it is, and we choose responses based on wisdom rather than compulsion. Zen teachings also emphasize the nature of impermanence. Emotions are transient, they arise, change, and fade. By understanding the impermanent nature of feelings, we learn not to over-identify with them or let them dictate our actions. Anger, like a storm, may be intense for a moment, but it eventually passes. By not reacting, we avoid being swept away by temporary disturbances. Self-awareness and reflection are also critical. Consider the triggers that provoke strong emotional reactions. Often, they are linked to unmet expectations, fears, or past experiences. Recognizing these patterns allows you to respond consciously, rather than unconsciously reacting out of habit. Buddhism teaches that mastery over emotions is mastery over the mind. The mind shapes our perception of the world. When the mind is disturbed by uncontrolled emotions, perception is clouded, decisions are compromised, and suffering increases. By learning not to react impulsively, we regain clarity, freedom, and control over our inner state. The next essential element is equanimity, known as upekkha in Pali. Equanimity is the balanced state of mind that allows us to meet situations calmly, without being carried away by extremes of pleasure or pain. Equanimity provides the stability necessary to observe emotions without reacting, and to respond wisely when action is required. Many situations in life test our emotional control: disagreements, criticism, unfair treatment, or personal loss. In these moments, immediate reactions often lead to regret, conflict, or deeper suffering. Buddhism encourages us to pause mentally, recognize the arising emotion, and choose a response that aligns with wisdom and compassion rather than impulse. There is a story of a monk who was insulted by a passerby. The monk felt anger rise within him, but he chose not to react. Instead, he observed the feeling, acknowledged it, and continued his walk peacefully. Over time, he realized that by not reacting, he preserved his inner calm, and the situation's energy did not escalate unnecessarily. This simple practice demonstrates the power of non-reaction in daily life. The principle of non-reaction is not about suppressing emotions or pretending they do not exist. It is about regulating the mind, observing emotions as natural phenomena, and acting with wisdom and clarity. By practicing non-reaction consistently, we gradually train the mind to remain steady, peaceful, and resilient in the face of life's challenges. Throughout this talk, we will explore practical tips and Buddhist insights on how to master your emotions. We will examine strategies to recognize triggers, maintain mindfulness, practice equanimity, and develop the habit of responding rather than reacting. By integrating these principles, you will learn that emotions are not enemies to be suppressed, but teachers to be understood. They provide valuable information about ourselves and our relationships. By observing them without reaction, we harness their wisdom while avoiding unnecessary suffering. Now that we have explored the foundation of emotional awareness and the philosophy behind not reacting, we move into practical strategies. These techniques are inspired by Buddhist and Zen teachings and can be applied in daily life to master emotions and respond with clarity. The first strategy is observing the emotion as it arises. When a strong feeling appears, anger, frustration, fear, or jealousy, simply notice it. Label it silently in your mind, this is anger, or this is frustration. By naming the emotion, you create a space between yourself and the feeling. This separation is crucial. It prevents automatic reactions and allows thoughtful response. The second strategy is focused mindfulness on the present moment. Often, reactions are fueled by past grievances or future worries. Mindfulness brings attention back to the present, where you have real control. By staying aware of the present moment, you avoid being swept away by imagined scenarios or habitual patterns of reactivity. Third, breathing awareness is a powerful tool. While you are not practicing guided meditation, simply noticing your breath can stabilize the mind when emotions rise. Observing the natural rhythm of your breathing calms the nervous system and slows the automatic urge to react. The breath becomes an anchor, keeping the mind centered in the present. Another strategy is recognizing impermanence. Every emotional state is temporary. Anger, irritation, or fear will arise, peak, and eventually fade. By understanding the transient nature of emotions, we reduce their power over us. We realize that immediate reactions are unnecessary and that patience can allow clarity to return naturally. Buddhism also teaches letting go of attachment to outcomes. Many reactions are triggered by expectations, expecting respect, understanding, or a specific behavior from others. When expectations are unmet, emotions flare. By releasing attachment, we reduce emotional volatility. We can act thoughtfully without being imprisoned by our desires. Another practical approach is responding with compassion. When faced with provocation or difficult situations, consider the perspective of others. Often, negative behaviors from others are driven by ignorance, fear, or past conditioning. By cultivating compassion, we replace reactive anger or frustration with understanding and patience. This does not mean condoning harmful behavior, but choosing a response that maintains inner peace and constructive interaction. Reflection before action is also critical. When an emotion arises, ask yourself, what is the most skillful response in this situation? By taking a moment, even an instant, to assess, you prevent knee-jerk reactions. This pause is a cornerstone of non-reactive behavior, and consistent practice strengthens self-control. Zen teachings emphasize the mind as the source of freedom or suffering. By observing and regulating the mind, we transform emotional responses into conscious choices. Techniques such as mindful observation, awareness of impermanence, and compassionate reflection all train the mind to remain calm and balanced. It is also helpful to identify triggers and patterns. Recognize the situations, people, or thoughts that provoke strong reactions. By understanding these patterns, you can prepare yourself mentally, reduce susceptibility to emotional escalation, and choose responses aligned with wisdom rather than habit. Another effective practice is detachment from judgment. Many reactions are fueled by judgments about what is right or wrong. Buddhism teaches us to see events as they are, without adding layers of critique or expectation. By observing without judgment, we reduce the emotional charge and respond with clarity. Finally, cultivating consistent mindfulness practice strengthens all of these strategies. Even without formal meditation, being aware of your thoughts, feelings, and reactions throughout the day trains the mind to respond skillfully. Awareness becomes a habit, and habitual awareness creates a natural resistance to impulsive reactions. By applying these strategies consistently, we gradually develop the power of not reacting. Life will continue to present challenges, conflicts, and provocations, but the ability to maintain clarity and composure allows us to navigate these situations skillfully. We conserve energy, reduce suffering, and foster harmony in our relationships and within ourselves. The Buddha said that anger is like holding a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. We are the ones who get burned. By practicing non-reaction, we drop the coal. We release the energy of anger, frustration, and reactivity, preserving our peace and preventing unnecessary harm. Non-reaction does not mean inaction or passivity. It means acting from a place of calm awareness rather than reactive impulse. Every action becomes intentional, considered, and aligned with wisdom. This is true mastery of emotions. As we continue our discussion on the power of not reacting, we now focus on three of the most common and challenging emotions: anger, fear, and jealousy. These emotions, if left unchecked, often dictate our behavior, disrupt relationships, and create unnecessary suffering. Buddhism provides practical guidance for mastering these emotions through awareness, non-attachment, and mindful response. Let's begin with anger. Anger often arises when we feel wronged, frustrated, or threatened. It is an intense emotion that can cloud judgment, distort perception, and lead to impulsive actions we later regret. The first step in managing anger is recognition. Notice the physical and mental signs of anger, tension in the body, racing thoughts, or a desire to react. By observing these signs, we create space between emotion and action. The second step is mindful pausing. In the moment of rising anger, take a mental step back. Ask yourself, is my reaction skillful? Will it cause harm or understanding? This pause is crucial. Even a few seconds of awareness can prevent destructive impulses from taking over. Third, practice non-attachment to perceived offense. Anger is often fueled by clinging to the belief that things should be different. Buddhism teaches that resisting reality intensifies suffering. By letting go of rigid expectations and accepting that situations do not always align with our desires, anger naturally diminishes. Compassion also transforms anger. Recognize that people act from their conditioning, fears, and past experiences. Responding with compassion does not condone harmful actions but shifts our reaction from destructive to constructive. This is the essence of non-reactive mastery. Next, let's examine fear. Fear arises from uncertainty, the anticipation of harm, or attachment to outcomes. Uncontrolled fear can limit potential, distort perception, and drive irrational behavior. Buddhism encourages facing fear with mindfulness and awareness. Observe the fear, acknowledge its presence, and allow it to exist without immediately acting on it. By understanding that fear is impermanent, like all emotions, we reduce its grip. Fear is also often rooted in attachment to security, comfort, or specific outcomes. By cultivating non-attachment, we can experience fear without being overwhelmed by it, responding to challenges with clarity rather than panic. Zen teachings emphasize equanimity in the face of fear. Equanimity does not remove fear but provides a stable mind that can respond wisely. When we encounter frightening situations, we can assess them calmly, take skillful action, or choose inaction, all while maintaining inner balance. Finally, we address jealousy. Jealousy arises when we compare ourselves to others and feel lacking or threatened. It is fueled by attachment to status, possessions, recognition, or relationships. Buddhism teaches that jealousy is a form of suffering created by clinging to what we do not have. The first step in handling jealousy is awareness. Notice the feelings as they arise, without judgment. Recognize the patterns and triggers that cause jealousy. Next, practice gratitude and contentment. Reflect on what you do have, the opportunities available to you, and the qualities within yourself that are unique and valuable. Non-attachment also reduces jealousy. By understanding that others' success or possessions do not diminish our worth, we can release comparisons and respond with appreciation rather than resentment. Compassion towards others strengthens this practice, allowing us to genuinely rejoice in their achievements rather than feel envy. All three of these emotions, anger, fear, and jealousy, share common elements. They are intense, they arise quickly, and they can dominate our behavior. Buddhism teaches that non-reaction transforms the power of these emotions. By observing, pausing, practicing non-attachment, and responding with mindfulness and compassion, we prevent these emotions from controlling our lives. There is a story of a Zen master who was insulted by a visitor in his monastery. The master felt the first surge of anger, yet he did not react. Instead, he observed the emotion and allowed it to pass. Later, he approached the visitor calmly, addressing the situation wisely and compassionately. The incident became a teaching moment rather than a source of conflict. This illustrates the practical power of non-reaction in handling strong emotions. By consistently practicing these techniques, we cultivate emotional resilience. Anger loses its destructive edge, fear becomes manageable, and jealousy transforms into understanding and gratitude. The mind gains stability, and relationships flourish because our responses are intentional rather than impulsive. Mastering emotions does not mean never feeling them. It means feeling without being consumed, observing without being overwhelmed, and responding with awareness rather than compulsion. Buddhism and Zen provide a framework for this mastery, teaching us that inner peace is the result of conscious choice, not the absence of emotion. Now that we have explored the philosophy of non-reaction and strategies for handling anger, fear, and jealousy, let's focus on how to apply these principles in everyday life. The true power of Buddhist wisdom lies not only in understanding but in consistent practice, transforming ordinary moments into opportunities for emotional mastery. One of the most common arenas where emotional reactions arise is relationships. Family, friends, colleagues, and even strangers can trigger anger, frustration, or disappointment. Reacting impulsively often escalates conflict, damages trust, and creates lasting tension. Buddhism teaches that by observing our emotions, pausing before responding, and choosing compassionate action, we preserve harmony and strengthen relationships. For example, consider a disagreement with a coworker. The immediate impulse may be to argue, defend yourself, or prove a point. Instead, apply non-reaction, notice the rising emotion, breathe, and respond with calm clarity. You may choose to speak thoughtfully, ask questions to understand, or simply wait until the mind is steady. By not reacting impulsively, you prevent escalation and create space for productive resolution. Another application is in stressful life events. Unexpected setbacks, delays, or disappointments often trigger frustration, anxiety, or fear. By practicing non-reaction, we allow ourselves to observe the situation without immediately assigning blame or judgment. This does not mean passivity, it means responding wisely, taking the necessary steps without letting emotions cloud judgment. Social media and online interactions are modern examples of emotional triggers. Comments, posts, and opinions often provoke anger or defensiveness. Practicing non-reaction online preserves mental peace and prevents unnecessary conflict. Observe your feelings, pause before responding, and act intentionally. Many times, choosing silence is more powerful than reacting impulsively. Parenting and teaching are also areas where non-reaction can be transformative. Children and students often act in ways that test patience. Reacting harshly or out of anger can damage trust and hinder growth. By observing emotions, pausing, and responding calmly, we model emotional intelligence and create a safe, supportive environment. Non-reaction also applies to personal growth and self-talk. Often, we react emotionally to our own mistakes or perceived failures with self-criticism or frustration. By observing these internal emotions without judgment and responding with understanding and patience, we cultivate self-compassion and resilience. In everyday interactions, even small moments are opportunities to practice non-reaction. A rude driver, a long line at the store, or a challenging conversation can trigger impulsive responses. By pausing, observing the emotion, and responding thoughtfully, or choosing not to react at all, we maintain inner calm and prevent unnecessary stress. Buddhism emphasizes that these practices create freedom from habitual patterns. When we react automatically, we reinforce habits that lead to suffering. Non-reaction allows us to break these patterns and respond consciously. Over time, this transforms not only our emotional experience but also our relationships, work, and overall quality of life. Consider the principle of equanimity applied daily. Life presents challenges, both minor and major. Equanimity allows us to maintain stability amidst uncertainty, discomfort, or provocation. It ensures that our actions are guided by wisdom rather than impulsive emotion. Zen teachings encourage consistent practice in ordinary life, not just during meditation. The path to mastery is found in small, repeated actions, noticing anger without reacting when cut off in traffic, responding with calm when criticized, choosing understanding over resentment in personal relationships. Each moment is an opportunity to train the mind. Applying non-reaction also deepens compassion and empathy. By observing our own emotions and choosing not to react impulsively, we gain insight into the human condition. This awareness extends to others, allowing us to act with understanding rather than judgment, and fostering harmonious interactions. The power of non-reaction in daily life is cumulative. Each conscious choice strengthens the mind's stability, each observed emotion reduces the grip of habitual responses, and each compassionate action enhances our connection with others. Over time, this creates a life marked by calm, clarity, and emotional freedom. Finally, it is important to remember that non-reaction is a practice, not perfection. There will be moments when emotions surge and reactions occur. The key is consistent awareness, returning to the principles of mindfulness, observation, non-attachment, and compassion. Mastery develops gradually, through patience and persistence, like training a muscle. We have explored the philosophy of non-reaction, practical strategies, and how to handle powerful emotions like anger, fear, and jealousy. Now, we focus on integrating these teachings into daily life, making emotional mastery a natural, ongoing part of who we are. Integration begins with consistent awareness. Non-reaction is not a single act, it is a way of approaching life. Each moment, each interaction, each challenge presents an opportunity to observe our emotions and respond consciously. Over time, this consistent practice strengthens the mind, creating a stable foundation of calm and clarity. One practical way to integrate non-reaction is to create mental checkpoints. During the day, remind yourself to pause before responding. Ask, am I reacting from impulse or responding with awareness? This simple question can shift the mind from automatic reactivity to conscious choice. Another method is reflection at the end of the day. Review situations where emotions arose and notice how you reacted. Did you respond skillfully, or were you carried away by emotion? Reflection allows learning from experience, reinforcing awareness, and improving future responses. Buddhism emphasizes habit formation through repetition. Just as we train our body through exercise, we train the mind through repeated conscious choice. Each moment you observe an emotion without reacting is like a step in strengthening your mental resilience. Over time, this becomes second nature. Integration also requires self-compassion. There will be moments when we fail, when emotions overwhelm us, and reactions occur. Buddhism teaches that self-criticism only compounds suffering. Instead, notice what happened, understand why the reaction occurred, and return to the practice. Compassion toward oneself sustains the journey. Another key aspect is aligning your environment with practice. Surround yourself with situations, people, and reminders that support mindfulness and emotional balance. This could mean reducing exposure to triggers, practicing mindful communication, or setting aside quiet time to reflect and observe. Non-reaction enhances every area of life. In relationships, it fosters understanding and harmony. At work, it promotes calm decision-making and reduces conflict. In personal growth, it strengthens patience, resilience, and clarity. In daily activities, it transforms ordinary moments into opportunities for mindfulness and conscious living. Buddhism also teaches that life is a continuous practice. Mastery is not a destination but a journey. Each challenge, each interaction, each emotional surge is an opportunity to practice non-reaction. The more consistently we engage, the more natural emotional mastery becomes. Consider the metaphor of a river again. Life, like water, flows continuously, presenting obstacles, bends, and currents. By flowing with life, observing emotions without reacting, we move with clarity and strength, unaffected by turbulence. Each moment of conscious choice guides us toward inner peace and stability. Finally, integration means embracing life as it is. Accepting impermanence, uncertainty, and the unpredictability of human behavior allows us to release the need to control outcomes. By acting skillfully, responding wisely, and choosing awareness over reaction, we live fully in the present, free from the unnecessary suffering of impulsive emotions. When non-reaction becomes a lived practice, the transformation is profound. Emotions no longer control the mind. Impulses no longer dictate actions. Relationships flourish, decisions are wiser, and life is experienced with a deep sense of calm and clarity. This is the true power of not reacting, and the essence of Buddhist emotional mastery.